1 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 8. Now to the unmarried and the widows I say, it is good for them to stay unmarried, as I do. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. To the married I give this command, not I but the Lord. A wife must not separate from her husband. But if she does, she must remain unmarried, or else be reconciled to her husband. And a husband must not divorce his wife. To the rest I say this, I, not the Lord. This is the Apostle Paul speaking. If any brother has a wife who is not a believer, and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer, and he is willing to live with her, she must not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. Otherwise your children would be unclean, but as it is they are holy. But if the unbeliever leaves, let it be so. The brother or the sister is not bound in such circumstances. God has called us to live in peace. How do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife? End passage. With women you are walking a tightrope. On the one side of the rope we have licentious casual sex, which leads to dangerous relations and unforeseen and highly unpredictable acts of vengeance and capital loss in general. If you don't believe me, just give it a try. That is, I'm speaking ironically, of course. On the other side, we have the pressure to start a family, which often proves an equal snare by leading to problems which the newly married man does not look ahead to apprehend. At first, he is given love, he's in the honeymoon phase, which may or not be appropriate for him at that time and in those circumstances, and later he finds his freedom totally controlled and time entirely devoted to earning money for the household, looking after children, pleasing his wife amongst other things, and his life has been entirely stolen without a shot having been fired or a threat being made. Love, you see, must be tested and meditated upon to see if it is indeed required. Marriage, which strengthens one's service to Christ, is encouraged, but married, or getting married for the sake of marriage, or for the culturally popular idea of family, should not be encouraged, contrarily to popular opinion. Families are good, but they are altogether unnecessary, and the life of a single man or woman, although at times lonely, holds the benefit of a total personal freedom which marriage destroys. This is not an excuse for fornication, but rather a clarification of the point that love and marriage are not identical. And necessarily loving someone is not always sufficient for marrying them. Again, this is not a call for licentious behavior, but a warning to young men and women that if the devil doesn't catch you by means of debauchery, he will tie you up and limit your service to Christ by means of family, using your own charitable nature against you, by extracting your time for unprofitable services, or should I say spiritually unprofitable services. The devil knows you better than you know yourself, and he will do absolutely anything to take the faithful away from complete service to Christ. This is why I support the Catholic Church's belief that a priest should remain unmarried. It is commonly regarded that Jesus was a family man, but this could not be further from the truth. Mark chapter 3 verse 31. Then Jesus' mother and brothers arrived. Standing outside, they sent someone in to call him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, "Your mother and brothers are outside looking for you." "Who are my mother and my brothers?" he asked. Then he looked at those seated in a circle around him and said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother."